Hey everyone, we are here with Kelvin Smith today, and we're going to be talking about a wide range of things: college football, playing college football, podcast he started, and why everyone should be listening to that. So, Kelvin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Why don't you give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate you having me. I'm from White Plains, New York. Grew up here my whole life. I went to high school in the Bronx originally called Horace, Mann. Very academic school, not very football or sports based at all. Um, my junior year, Horace Mann, I always wanted to play basketball in college. So my junior year, Horace Mann, I was playing basketball, and we went to a away game at a team's homecoming called Poly Prep, and they blew us out. And I got in the car and I said, "Mama, I can't do this anymore. I want to transfer." And she was like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yes." So that's when I made my decision to transfer to my private school. To my prep school in New Jersey called the Hun School. Went up there. The football coach saw me in the hallway. He said, "Hey, do you play football?" I was like, "Oh, no, not really. I play basketball." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Where do you want to go?" I was like, "I want to go to the Ivy League." He was like, "You join the football team and we'll make it happen." So I was like, "Deal." So then I joined the football team. That's how I started, really getting into football. Now at Yale, going into senior year, or technically senior year, my super senior year, econ major. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's all the important things.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a cool story. Definitely super unique. And when you were like thinking about playing basketball, were you like kind of entering the recruiting process a little bit, or like what was that
Yeah,
kind of
so
looking like
actually,
for you?
yeah, so I was looking at a couple of schools. Like I could have went to like Wash U, Williams, Tufts, schools like that. I had an offer from Cornell for basketball, but after it was like during the time when I was choosing what school to go to, I was choosing between Cornell for basketball and then Yale and Harvard for football. So I didn't know what
Yeah.
I still wasn't like fully set on one. And then Yale kind of said like I could do both, which is why I ended up choosing Yale. But then when I came to Yale, I realized I didn't have enough time to do both. So then I kind of just dropped basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely hard to be a two-sport athlete, but I'm kind of glad we're talking about that because I don't think high schoolers and even youth sports athletes like understand how important it is to play more than one sport and
Yeah, of
how like playing basketball could translate to football and vice versa. So you want to talk about a little bit how you value the importance of playing multiple sports kind of growing up?
course. Yeah. It's night and day playing multiple. I feel like I have so much of an advantage playing two sports versus one because I didn't play football, but everything I put into basketball helped me with football. So, there's some moves in football where like, you're running a route and you're juking somebody. It's the same as a crossover in basketball. It's like there's very similar movements, and that goes in any sport. Some sports are more focused on hand-eye coordination, like baseball, lacrosse. Other sports are more like athletic ability, track. But the more sports you play, the more of an overall understanding you get of the concept of sports. And when you get an understanding of like the concept of sports, you can play any sport. It doesn't really
Hmm.
matter. You kind of walk into anything and kind of quickly understand it. You get a grasp of it because it's all about adapting and learning and your ability to learn quick. So the more sports you play, definitely the better.
Yeah, and then for your basketball recruiting process, when you were kind of talking, about getting recruited and stuff, was it through like an AAU team? Was it like through your high school? Like, what was that process like? Because it's so different than football. It's pretty much all through your high school team. So, what
Yeah.
was your basketball in comparison?
Yeah. So for basketball, for me, it started off through my AAU team. I played for the Gauchos, New York Gauchos, the name of the team. We were there's circus and basketball. There's like AAU circus. So it's like Under Armour. There's Nike, Jordan. We were the Under Armour circuit. So that's when coaches would come. They'd come to the sideline. They usually come to the sideline. They watch the game, and then if you have a good game after the game, they'll talk to you. They'll say they're interested or whatever. If not, during the recruiting period. So that's how I started talking to those D3 schools like Tufts, like Wash U school. There's a few more. I can't. It's so long ago. Williams. I just
Yeah.
can't. But that's how I started talking to them. Then that was around my sophomore junior year. Um, so then I transferred. After my junior year, my first high school, I transferred and did junior year again at my second high school. So that after my second junior season at my new high school for basketball, that was when COVID hit in that spring. So a lot of my recruiting was virtual now. So I did a lot of Twitter texting. The Cornell coach and the the Cornell coach had reached out to me on Twitter. That's how I got in contact with them. Twitter is, for high school athletes, Twitter is your home. Like Twitter is it's just like everything you want is on Twitter, because I didn't use my Twitter. So I didn't even know that these coaches have reached out to me until I checked it. Like until I went on there, because I didn't realize that that's what people use to recruit. But I went on there and then I talked to them. That was after my junior season that we did a Zoom call. And there was basically, the way it works is like, first they'll say like, we're interested, we like what you're doing. Then if you keep sending, they'll ask you for a game. So they'll ask you at first they'll see your highlight tape. That's what will get them interested, right? Then they'll be like, all right, we like your highlights. Let's see a full game. Because now they want to see like, all right, we saw how you play the best parts, but we want to see like how you play throughout the whole game, how good you are at your worst kind of thing. So then they take like 10 games. They will watch all 10 games, and they'll just keep an eye on you the whole game, and they'll see how you play. And then based off of that evaluation, if they like you, then they'll probably ask you for like measurements. So like, wingspan, height, things like that. Usually if it wasn't COVID, I probably would have came in for a visit. But it was, so we just did a Zoom call, and they basically described like what the school has to offer and everything. For Cornell, they don't do offers. So they don't do physical offers. What they did for me is, and some schools will do this, they'll offer you, but they'll keep it so that you can only accept it, or it's only an offer if you accept it. So what that means is like you can't post it. They don't want you to post the offer. They did this because once you post the offer, other schools come looking for you, right?
Yep.
So it was like an acceptance type of offer. But once I knew that I wasn't going to play at Cornell, and once I made a decision, I posted it, because I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
But that whole recruiting process mostly came from my second year in high school. It did start in AAU, came from second year in high school, and then that second year, your coach is very important for your recruitment. So my coach played a huge role in helping me get recruited. I went to the prep school I went to was a good high school. They had a good history. So that coaches, like when the school has a good history, coaches will come to the school and just look at the play. They'll just look for players. Like you don't really have to go find them; they'll find you. But at Horace Mann, that was never the case. I wouldn't have saw a coach in decades if I stayed there.
Yeah.
So I realized
hey,
how
it happens. Different schools have different strengths, like it comes with the territory. So yeah.
At least not for basketball. The other kids go to college for sports at Horace Mann for other sports like tennis, swimming, but basketball or football, no.
Yeah. Makes sense. And then, so, I know we talked about this right before we got on, but first year that Ivy League football can go to the playoffs. So definitely exciting for you guys. Like, what's the mentality of the team? Like, is everyone excited for this? Like, what are the vibes like?
So I actually want to say this real quick. My co-host, he couldn't make it today, Mason, for the podcast. He's actually the one who pushed that bill through, or that
cool.
bill to get us into the playoffs. So he's actually he started the whole, get the Ivy League into the playoffs thing. He was on the board for that. But the team is stoked now. Now everybody is a whole nother mentality, because in the past it's been a type of ball game where you lose one or two games, you can't win the regular season anymore, and it's kind of like, that's it. Like and it hurts, and everybody plays hard regardless of like winning or losing or the outcome, but it just hurts to know, like my freshman year when I came in, there were seniors, we had a 5-5 season, and they knew after our third loss that like there was no Ivy League title for us to win. So their last two games, they're kind of playing like, they're playing like it's their last games, but there's nothing to play for. So I felt bad for them. Now it's a situation where no matter how many games you win or lose, you always have to know that the next one could be your bid into that tournament, into the playoffs. So there's a whole new mentality of like, just always like foot on the gas. The team is like everybody. I'm pretty sure the whole Ivy League is very excited about it.
How's Coach Reno feeling about it? Is he excited?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Coach Reno in a minute, but I'm pretty sure he's excited about it. I'd say, because it's an opportunity for also not just for Yale, but for the Ivy League to showcase its talent. The Ivy League is a very talented league. The past couple of years, we're sending a lot of kids to the NFL. A few kids from Yale, a few kids from like other schools, and it's slowly growing. And people need to like recognize that, acknowledge that. I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to match up with other teams in our league or the FCS in general. But yeah, everybody's really excited about it.
Yeah, and then how is like NIL and the house settlement? How has that impacted you guys at all, as
Yeah,
far
so
as like the Ivy League overall? Because you guys are always in such a unique position, right? It's
yeah,
D1, but you don't get the athletic scholarships. But and like of course, the schools are very prestigious and they have their own reputations that they still want to maintain and everything. And it's such a balance. So like, how
yeah,
are you seeing that all kind of coming together as you're seeing it all change, especially with the
yeah.
other schools?
Good question. For the Ivy League, I think that the Ivy League is very much stood on the fact that we're academics first. So like as of right now, as far as I'm concerned, there is no athletes are still like being paid in the Ivy League. It's very rare. If it does happen, I don't know about it. But what's happening now is teams in other leagues are using it to their advantage, knowing that the Ivy League doesn't pay their players. So they're like, you come. They're kind of trying to poach players in the Ivy League. They're like, if you come here, we'll give you this, and now it's hurting us. So it's a
Mhm.
hard situation because the Ivy League does put academics first, but there are other top academic schools in the world that are paying their Duke, great academic school, their parents are getting paid. So now it's like it's harder for the Ivy League to recruit because
Yeah.
because of NIL. So we'll see what happens in the next 5-10 years with it, because obviously the next thing I think is going to be coming is a salary cap for big schools. And now that you can pay players directly, it's not like the Ivy League doesn't have the money. They definitely have the money. It's just like it's
Correct.
just a fact of whether they want to keep academics as the main focus or not. So as far as I'm concerned right now, it's still just a financial aid focus to help out athletes who fit that criteria. But that's really it for the Ivy League.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's so interesting because I do think you guys have like, what are some of the NIL benefits? Maybe like Pepe's, like you
Yeah.
can
Oh,
get
yeah.
pizza
So,
there or anything. Yeah.
so,
Like, let's talk about that a
yeah. So
little.
I wouldn't. I guess being on a football team, they feed us. So I say that we don't get paid, but they will make sure we eat throughout the day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. They'll take care of us. We have like meals that are like prepared to have high protein. So when you're trying to stay in shape, you're trying to lose weight, they give us meals for that. They give us like little things to help with like health recovery. I say those are all the ways we get paid.
Yeah.
Like we used to have a deal with Yorkside Pizza,
Yep.
where the team would get us. We'd all go to Yorkside and get be able to get a meal after practice because our practices will run late, so we miss dinner. So instead of dinner, they get everybody like a $15 voucher, and you go to Yorkside and you can get a meal. Things like that. We got a lot of what else do we get? Normatex, all those types of we get cryotherapy. Those are all the ways we get, I say, paid. But yeah, those
Well,
are.
I mean, listen, back 10, 15 years ago, you'd be kicked out of NCAA for all those perks. So it's
Yeah,
something,
right.
Yeah. So it's better than nothing. But
Yeah,
awesome. Let's talk about your podcast a little bit.
yeah.
How did you come up with the idea? I guess is where we'll start.
Yeah, so I said Mason actually, me and Mason came up with the idea a while back. I say 2 years back is when he first came to me. He was like, "I think we should do a podcast," and I was like, "Okay," but keep in mind, I've never watched a podcast a day in my life, so I didn't know what that meant. I just knew, like, my best friend wanted to do. Me and Mason are best friends, all like outside of the podcast, also. So I was like, my friend wanted to do a podcast. I got time. Let's do it. Let's try it. So we did it. It didn't go great. We didn't necessarily stick to the game plan. So then it stopped. And then this past January, he came to me again. He was like, I think we should like try this for real. We both took a semester off because we're coming back for football in the fall. So we had a lot of time in the spring to just to do really what we wanted. So we were like, let's take this podcast seriously. I was like, you know what, let's do it this time. And the whole goal was like, first thing we sat down was like, all right, what's our goal? And the goal of the podcast really is to just tell stories from the Ivy League. Tell the
Mhm.
best stories from the Ivy League, whether it be athletes, entrepreneurs, students, professors, coaches, alumni. Get all the best stories from the Ivy League and highlight them, because there's a lot of people at Ivy League doing remarkable things that they don't really get recognition for. and there's a lot of people at other schools doing the same thing, and they're on, TV. So it's like, there's kids at our school, like there's a company called Series, and they basically just created an AI that's an AI LinkedIn, AI version of LinkedIn. So you tell them like what you want to do, where you want to work at, what you have going on, like what your resume has, and they'll basically find you people and connect you with people that are also looking for jobs, or people that are also looking to hire. So things like that are just like unheard of, and the world doesn't know about it. But that's like a ridiculous feat, We also try to highlight athletes. A couple of kids in the basketball team this year had a great season. John, Fulakidis, Bez are both with summer league teams right now playing. I think they played today, actually. But it's just little things like that people don't know about. We have Olympians. We wanted to highlight all these stories and get them out there. So that's how it started. We've kind of, segued as it gone and got into, the nitty gritty of like, all right, we did athletes. We focused on athletes for a while. Now let's focus on students. And then we did students for a while. Now let's focus on entrepreneurs. So we're trying to really hit every single aspect while keeping the main topic. So right now, like we just came off a week or a month, I'd say, a couple of months where we visited Harvard, Princeton. I went to Brown, UPenn, obviously Yale. And we just went and asked students questions. We went around and asked students questions because these are things that kids want to hear. What's your Common App score, your SAT? How did you get here? What was your story? What do you think kids have to do to get here? What advice you have? And it's been going great so far. It's a lot of fun. I think that's the best part about it is that it's fun. If you can't keep something up, it's not fun. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
What's your advice for any other like college athletes or even college students in general looking to kind of start a podcast? What's your biggest piece of advice? And then what's like one thing that you did wrong that you wish I'm sure you learned from it, but like you wish that you didn't do.
No, great question. So one piece of advice I have is you have to get a group of friends around you that want the same thing as you, or that want it as much as you do. So like if let's say I wanted to start a podcast and it was just me and like Mason wasn't next to me, I don't think this would have worked. I don't think it would have been as good. And same vice versa if he tried to start a podcast by himself, because you need a group of some type of support around you, or some type of people, or some type of situation where the people around you are just as determined as you are. So if you're around your friends and you try to start a podcast and they're like, oh, what are you doing that for? It's going to discourage you and you're going to lose your track very fast, and it's very hard to keep something going by yourself because now you're the only one holding yourself accountable. So now when you stop, no one's going to be looking like, why'd you stop? You're just going to stop. So I say the friend group you have around you is extremely important to when you want to start something. And then as for actually starting, like one piece of advice I have for that is it's not necessarily advice, but just like a statement, like it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel awkward. Like there is no like smooth, just like, oh yeah, I'm going to start this. Everybody loves it. No, like it's going to feel weird. You're going to feel a little bit like, you're putting yourself out there. It's different, and that's okay. It's supposed to feel like that. You just have to push through it, because once you get going, you're going and you don't feel that anymore, and it goes away forever. And now you're ready to work. Now you're ready to build your business. So that's my advice I have for kids or anybody who's trying to do that. And then one place I went wrong, I'd say, one place me and Mason went wrong is early on. We didn't have we didn't have a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a pattern in how we do things. So we were kind of just going around and we're asking. I would go around if I was like asking questions to people. I would ask one group of kids like, oh, where are you from? Why'd you go here? And then I asked the other kid like, oh, what's your SAT score? What's your GPA score? And now when I'm going back to edit the video, I kind of have nothing to like connect, when I'm trying to edit all these things together. So the thing that I realized is that you have to have a detailed plan for every single thing you do, even if it doesn't look like it was planned. It has to be planned.
Right.
So like we just started getting into like doing YouTube videos. And like before we were like, all right, we're just gonna film, we're gonna go out there, film all this, put a YouTube video together. No, you have to plan, you have to plan out what you want to film. So like you have to say, like if you're writing notes, all right, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna record myself waking up. I'm gonna record myself going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth. I'm gonna record myself getting in the car. I'm gonna record myself getting out the car. you have to put note next to all these things because they're things that you easily forget. When you're in the moment, you just go with the flow. You think it'll be all right. You'll look back at your phone or wherever you record on, and it'll just be a mess. Same thing with asking questions. You have to ask the same questions. All right, this is something I think helps. Ask the same questions to a large group of people. So now you can put together a montage of their answers. I think that's way more beneficial. People want to hear more than one answer when they ask a question, and it also keeps the focal point. So if someone is watching your video and they clicked on that video because the first question was, what was your SAT score? Then I don't think the next question should be, where are you from? Nobody wants to hear about where they're from. The whole point of that video is your SAT score, right? So keep that the main thing, and then keep everything separated and just like build a pattern for everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Always got to have a plan. As silly as it may seem, you still got to stick to a plan to some degree. So that's a great point. And then for anybody that's like looking to potentially get recruited or even just go to the Ivy League, I guess in general, I'll ask two questions. Number one, what is like your favorite thing about going to Yale / being part of the Ivy League? And number two, what do you recommend to do to stand out in some certain way, whether it's, application specific or interview or whatever advice that you may have? But those are the two kind of questions that I have for you as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, great questions again. I say one thing that stands out about the Ivy League, or my favorite part about it, is the connections. I say that actually the classes that you take, you can choose. Don't get me wrong. There are some majors where your classes are extremely hard, but you can choose your major. So in the same sense, you can choose how hard you want your classes to be. So it really, a lot of classes at Yale aren't that hard. They're decently hard. Don't get me wrong, it's a college class, but it's not like it's some, rocket science type of class. So the main thing you get from going to Ivy League school, no matter what major you take, is connecting with the people around you. And I've realized, walking around campus, you get so used to the fact that you go to a school, you don't realize how much you're taking it for granted, and how lucky you are to be in that situation. Like, just to go to Ivy League school, you have to be lucky. And unless you're like, I say, if you're an athlete, there's even still a factor of luck because athletes don't get scholarships in the Ivy League. You have to get recruited. Like they have to, you basically have to get recruited, and you still have to get accepted into the school,
Right.
To a certain degree, you have to be able to be happy where you are, but the connections that you meet, the people that you meet, are everybody around you is doing something remarkable. Every single person. So you look to your right, you see somebody that might start a business one day, be a billionaire. You look to your left, you might see one of the best actors in the world. That's kind of thing, and that's also kind of the reason we started the podcast, is because everybody has a story. Every single person, no matter if they had high grades, no matter if they didn't, they had a story, and that's what got them to where they are today. So I say the best part about just the Ivy League in general is that every single person that is around you, including yourself, has a value in a story that is beneficial to learn about and just to be around, And it's also easier. I say another thing is that Ivy League is full of very hard workers. It's contagious. Everybody around you is working to do something. You kind of want to do something too, even if that wasn't your original goal or your original plan. You end up just wanting to grow, And then the second question, what advice would I like to stand out in high school? I say to stand out in high school, you have to do one of three things, or two maybe. But the first thing is be an athlete, right? I say for me, if I want, how would I get my kid to Ivy League school? If I had a kid and he was growing up and he's in high school, I'd want him to be an athlete, and he has to learn a work ethic that is unmatched. And I say that if he's good at a sport, go for it. And if not, then okay, we'll take the academic route. But as far as standing out, I think that you just have to work hard. You have to work hard, and you have to really, if you have hobbies, go after them. I think that the Ivy League doesn't want to look for robots. It doesn't look for kids with 4.0 GPAs, 1,600 SAT scores. They look for kids with a story. And if you're working hard to accomplish something, the story will build itself. Now we look back on the podcast that me and Mason made in January, and it's kind of all right, obviously we're still very fresh. We just started in January, not many viewers or followers, But for us, it's like, wow, we came a long way from January. Like, whereas like I've never watched a podcast before, and now like I'm doing a podcast. You know, you kind
Right.
of you can look at what you created after you just put your head down and just focus on what's in front of you. So I say that like if you're a high school student and you're in class, like focus on class. You know, you can't fit in with all. It's not. You can't always just like be around your friends who want to be cool and everything. Like, yes, that's fun, but you have to put yourself first. You kind of got to sacrifice. And I say like that's my main advice is like you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice like the partying. You have to sacrifice like just this friend like just friendship. Sometimes to sacrifice your happiness. If it makes you happy to sit around and do nothing, you have to sacrifice that. So you got to get
Yeah.
up. You got to go do something. But I say that all those things in high school. That's why I transferred. It's because I realized I loved Horace, man. My first school. It was like it was my favorite school. I had a lot of friends there. I'm still close with them to this day. All of them were very close. And I didn't want to transfer. My eighth grade year, that's the school that I wanted to transfer to, the original school. They called me and they're like, "Hey, we want you to come here. We'll turn you into we can make you a good basketball player and all this." And I was like, "No, I'm scared. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my bubble, And then
Yep.
11th grade came around, and I was like, I had to leave. There's no other option for me. I'm not going to make it to the Ivy League if I stay here because I had no looks, no
Right.
offers, no interest, no anything. And it kind of took me out of my comfort zone. And then what sucks even more is that I went back to that school and tried to go there, and they rejected me, the high school. So
Yeah.
I went back there. I applied for them, or you can get a scholarship in high school also to make a team, but the team basically said we can't get a spot for you. You have to walk on, which means I just had to get accepted to the school. So I was like, all right. And then I went and applied for the school and got rejected from the school. So then at that point, I was like, everything was. I said that was one of my like all-time lows because I just had no plan on what to do. I already left my old school. I got rejected from the school I thought I could go to, and it's like, what do I do now? And then that's when I kind of just realized you just got to figure it out. People don't help you. People don't want you to like. They don't see your vision. Not everybody sees your vision, so they're not gonna like push you to be like, oh yeah, you can do it. Like, no, a lot of people don't think you can do the things you want to accomplish. Like if you ask anybody around me if they thought I was going to Ivy League school, they probably say no. Like they probably aren't gonna believe it because like when I left my first school, I had no offers, no interest, no anything. So it was the type of situation where it's like, what is he doing? Like what is his plan? But you kind of just have to trust yourself. And I say that's my advice, just trust yourself.
Love that. And then how can people find the podcast? What's the best way?
Yes.
Instagram, TikTok, what are the handles? So
Yeah,
let's talk about that a little bit.
OTL.pod on Instagram, OTL.pod on TikTok, Off the Leash on YouTube. OTL stands for Off the Leash, by the way. So Off the Leash podcast. But if you type in OTL and then you type in Yale, it'll probably come up on Google if you just Google it. We have a link tree in our Instagram bio and in our TikTok. You click on it, it'll take you to all of our podcast links. So we have Apple, Spotify, and really anything you want to watch on YouTube videos of the podcast. But that's how you can find us.
Awesome. And then for anybody listening, we will make sure that we link it throughout the article too. So people will be able to kind of grab you guys that way as well and click through. But in case they're listening and can't click on anything right now, we will, obviously we're talking it through. So there we go. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you guys all the best. I think you got a great thing going with Off the Leash, and I'm excited to continue, following your guys' journey, and hope maybe we could do another interview in a year from now and check back in and see where you guys are at. So that'd be cool. Yeah, and good luck this fall too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.